Hi guys, Tracy here with another scrapbooking process video. Today I am using the Basic Grey Grand Bazaar collection, which is quite an old collection. This is for International Scrapbooking Day for the challenge that we have going on over at our Facebook group. We have a crop going on all day long, and so make sure that you check out our Facebook group. The link is in the information section below. And challenge number 5 is called One More Try, and it is to use an older collection or kit or to finish up a neglected project. And so I have been hanging on to the Grand Bazaar collection from Basic Grey, and I have used it. I shouldn't say I've been hanging on to it, but I haven't used it as much as I would have hoped. So I am going to use that as my older collection for today. And so you see I have it stored in my homemade DIY collection folders that I have a video on my YouTube channel about how to make. And I'm just flipping through the papers. It's been quite a while since I've used them. So I also have a couple of embellishments, and I'm going to be from the same collection. And I'm going to be scrapbooking this. It's basically a screen capture of my daughter's Instagram feed, and she has a picture. It was basically when they're waiting to go on stage, they all kind of wait. There's an area outside where they just kind of hang out waiting for their turn to go on stage. And so all of the pirates were back there kind of horsing around a little bit and getting ready to go onto the stage for their part. And so you can see Captain Hook there quite visibly. His outfit is very recognizable, and the colors are really kind of bright and colorful, which is why I chose the Grand Bazaar collection for this one. Now, there are 4 different sketches. It looks like there's 5, but I have a duplicate of one of them. There are 4 different sketches that we're using today that were generously provided by Creative Scrappers by Christine Davidson. And so thank you to her for providing us with some sketches to use. And I knew I wanted to use one of them, but I wasn't sure which one. I decided to go with this one. But I'm going to turn it on its side like this to accommodate a vertical photo because my photo is vertical. And so I just printed it up onto a piece of 4x6 photo paper. I ran it through my Picture-Mate charm, and now I'm all ready to scrap it. So now that I know what my sketch will look like, and basically I chose that sketch because it has 3 different mats on it. It has a background paper, and then it has 3 mats that are kind of stacked. They're horizontal strips of paper that are stacked on top of each other. And so I've picked out these 3 patterns, and then that blue one is the background. I am going to mat my photo just to give it a little bit more weight, because everything else on this photo everything else on this page except for the photo is very dark with lots of what is the word I'm looking for? Like dense patterning. And this photo has lots of wide open space because it is a screen cap from an Instagram feed, and so there's lots of white all around the photo. I wanted to keep the kind of the context of that photo, so instead of trimming it down to just the photo, I wanted to keep, you know, things like her Instagram name and some of the people who commented or liked it and that sort of thing, just to kind of be part of the memory. So I matted it on that black paper, which is one of the pattern papers that came in the collection. And now I'm going to cut 3 horizontal strips of pattern paper. So I'm starting with that striped one, and then I'm putting this yellow one in the middle of the other 2 patterns because the other 2 patterns are so dark and dense, and then the yellow pattern is a little bit more spaced out, and so I thought that that would look good to break up the other 2. The other 2 wouldn't look quite so good right beside each other, just because it would be a little bit too busy. And now I'm just going to fuss a little bit with the size of these, just because I know that I want the top one to be the tiniest and the bottom one to be the largest. And then I don't really want to do math, so I'm just going to eyeball it and take a little bit off of this one and make sure that it is still just a little bit bigger than the striped one. I'm going to cut down the striped one a little bit, just to emphasize that kind of stacked nature. I like the bottom one to be usually the bigger whenever I'm stacking anything. And then I just measured out, I think it was 9.5 inches is the width of each of those. And now I'm just going to stack them like this. and put my photo like this. And then if you take a look at that sketch again, you'll notice that there's a third piece of pattern paper. It runs vertically. It's also a long rectangular strip. It runs vertically. And whatever that paper is, I want it to be something that is not too busy. I want it to read as a solid, and I wanted to kind of unify all of the other papers. So I chose this tone-on-tone orange paper. It picks up on the oranges that are in some of the other papers and just kind of brings everything together. And it's much, much less busy than it is still quite busy, but according to the standards of this collection, it's one of the less busy papers in the collection. So I did change the sketch a little bit so that the photo is overlapped with that large vertical strip of orange paper instead of being over to the side. I grabbed Olivia's script, and I'm just going to, I'm looking for the chant that the pirates say several different times in the script. And so I found it right here. There it is. And that's going to be, it's going to be a very, very long title. It's not really a title. I guess it's kind of the journaling, or it's going to be the only written words on this layout other than what comes on the Instagram post. So there are these 6 colors of letters that are in this collection. And I am going to use, there are also 6 phrases, and I'm sorry, I am going to move it down so that you'll see it in just a few minutes, but I am going to use each of the colors and types of fonts that come in this collection for one each of the, and I'm just going to cut the little end off of this question mark to make a little apostrophe. And I'm going to use one of each of these fonts for each of the 6 lines in the chant. I will move it down in just a second. And I don't usually edit my process out very much, so this is going to be a long and tedious process simply because it involves moving a lot of stickers off of this sticker sheet and onto my wax paper, and then later in the process I'll be moving those same stickers off of the wax paper and onto my project, and I will cut a little bit of the video at that point, but I'm going to leave this in because I believe in leaving the complete process in, and that usually gives me a chance to chat with you guys during some of the more boring parts about either the layout or the picture and that sort of thing. So one of the things that I will say about using these kinds of tiny letter stickers, you see I have my Stampin' Up! Paper piercer there that I'm using to poke the little holes out of the letters. And one of the most annoying things about using these kinds of letter stickers is poking out all of those little insides, because they're very sticky and they stick to your fingers, and then they stick to the backs of the stickers, and then the stickers aren't sticky anymore when there's stuff stuck to the back of them. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm poking it so that the inside holes that are left behind are all ending up on my ring finger. And so I'm kind of poking them out onto my ring finger and then leaving them there. And that way they don't get like all over all of my fingers, and then I'm not inadvertently getting them on stuff. So I guess that is a tip that I would have for you, is to try to keep all of your little stray sticker centers of the A's and the O's and that sort of thing. Try to keep them all together. And then what I'm doing is in between each color, I'm just cleaning off that ring finger so that those stickers don't accumulate to the point that there's a huge amount of them and they're sticking to each other and whatnot. Also, so that these letters don't get too cumbersome on the piece of wax paper, I'm cutting apart the wax paper for each phrase, basically. I didn't for the first 2, but I will from that point forward. And I'm thinking that the legibility of the pink on the orange is probably not going to be great. So I'm thinking about what I might be able to do with that. And now when I take off the little tiny dots for the eyes in the pink font, what I'm noticing is that I'm leaving the sticky part behind on the sheet, and so the dot is actually not sticky at all. So I have to take a little bit of glue and glue it down. And I'm thinking maybe the glue won't dry entirely on the wax paper and it might still be sticky by the time I go to put it on my layout, but it turned out that that didn't happen, and I did have to re-glue it when I put it on my layout. I was just doing a little celebration there because I got to use a letter Z, which I almost never get to use. So hooray for a layout with the word Amazon in it. So this is just my Stampin' Up! Glue pen, and it has like a fine liner type of bottle tip to it. And I just use that to put that little tiny dot, and it keeps flipping over backwards, but eventually I'll get it right. There we go. And I'm going to cut that off. And again, I'm cleaning off my fingers again. And now I'm moving on. I'm actually going to skip the orange letters because I don't think that they'll be legible enough. But I'm going to go ahead and use the white. They're actually kind of like a cream color, because that cream color is pretty prominent in the collection. And I think that that will look really good on the title. And so the phrase says, "We're bloody buccaneers and each a murderous crook. We terrify Amazon, scare little boys, and cater to Captain Hook. Ho, ho, yo ho, the terrible Captain Hook." And I am making these letters be very scattered on the page so that they look really casual, because that's the way it kind of reflects the way that the pirates, both the way that they act and the way that they enter the stage, and also the way that they talk. It's sort of they're kind of all over the place and carrying on and being boisterous and aggressive with each other. And so I thought that having a bouncing bass line and having the letters all kind of crooked and jaggedy and off on crazy angles was kind of reflective of the characters that I'm portraying in this page. And also a nice little side effect is that I don't have to worry about trying to line them up, because lining up this amount of letters would be really, really difficult and painstaking. So it kind of serves two purposes, but it really does fit with the story that I'm trying to tell, and that's the main reason that I'm doing it. If I was telling a story that was more orderly, serious, or organized, and that was sort of the theme that I was going with, I would have probably spent the time to line them all up. So here I come to, and I said that there were 6, but there's actually 5 because I'm not using the orange. And here I come to the end of these letters. And one thing that I'm noticing that I didn't notice before I started to do this is that the first 3 letters are a different font than the last 2 letters. So the yellow and the white are a different font. And that's okay, I don't mind them being different fonts, but right now it kind of looks weird because the 2 that are the same are together and the 3 that are the same are together. So definitely as I go on and do the subsequent lines in this in these lyrics, I want to make sure that I go back to using the serifed font. That's the font with little lines on the tops and the bottoms of all of the letters, just because that helps it look more pulled together and organized than just kind of the other way was not random enough. And so this, I don't know, I just like how this looks. I don't know if I explained it, but I hope that I got my point across. So as you can see, the majority of the time that I'm spending on this page is really spent spelling out my title/journaling the lyrics of this song. And that's because the lyrics of the song really are the main part of the story. So I have some of the lyrics out, and I could leave it at yo ho, but there is one more line that I consider to be optional because it's just a repetition of one of the other lines or similar to one of the other lines. So at this point, I'm not sure how I'm going to position my letters, and I don't want to bother spelling out that last phrase if I end up not having room for it on the page. So you saw that what I did there was I actually glued down those 3 panels, and now before I glue down this one, I'm going to do something here. So I'm measuring it. It looks like I'm about to trim it, but I'm just measuring it with my trimmer. And then I'm going to cut a piece of vellum. And I have 2 different kinds of vellum. I have like a cardstock type of vellum, and then I have a paper type of vellum. The paper vellum is a little bit less thick and more see-through. And so I'm using the paper vellum, so the less see-through. And that's again because I mentioned the legibility. Now you can see how I can see the adhesive. I don't have any vellum adhesive. I know that they sell it and people tell me it's really great, but I always forget to buy it. So I still, after all these years, don't have any vellum adhesive. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do about this. So I basically don't, I'm only adhering it so that it doesn't move around when I'm sewing it. So I've sewn a strip and now I'm just using my thumb to pull it off. And because ATG just rolls off when you just, all that you have to do is take your finger, and I think it's like the oils in your finger help it to just pull up, and see, I'm just like roll, 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 and then it rolls right off. So I am sewing all the way around the perimeter of this orange piece in the vellum with black thread. And black, because of the impact that black thread gives, it's a little bit more bold. I could have, I also thought about matting all of these panels with black cardstock, and that would also give it the look that I'm looking for. But I decided that thread would be, first of all, it would be a little bit less impact than the cardstock would have been because it's less pronounced and thinner. And second of all, I really liked the kind of casual look, I guess, that stitching would give, especially black stitching. I find black stitching is quite casual. White stitching can look very formal, especially if you do it quite lined up and neat. And this is like the lines are straight. I'm not like doing messy stitching or anything, but just the black thread makes it look kind of casual. And it kind of fits with the theme of the paper, which is kind of, it looks a lot like textiles, like rugs and quilts and stuff. So I thought that the thread would make almost as much impact as cardstock, and I just liked the idea of it a little bit better. So that's what I'm going with here. And as I turn the corner, I just leave it so that the needle is inside of the paper. I lift up the presser foot and twist the paper so that it just turns the corner like that. And now here I am back. I just had to put my little thing that holds my camera away, and now I'm just trimming off all of the ends, and I really like how this is looking. I think it looks great. Yeah, in the thread, I think if I had matted it, it would look too, it would emphasize too much all of the rectangles, and it might compete a little bit with the matting of the photo. And so yeah, I'm glad that I used the sewing instead of the cardstock matting of those 3 panels, and perhaps the 4th as well. So now that I have the phrases all lined up there, I'm deciding to add the final phrase. And so more letter sticker shenanigans here. Sorry. I know that this is a lot of the same thing. This play was really amazing. My daughter did a wonderful job. They all did a wonderful job. We consider ourselves really lucky to be able to be involved in this community theater. It's a theater where the entire production is put on by kids. So anywhere from, I think the youngest is grade 2 up to grade 12. And it is a nonprofit organization. So the whole thing is just fun, like self-sufficient in terms of the money raised from each play just goes back into the theater for future plays. And it's really, really popular around here. So lots of families who don't have actors in the play, they buy tickets and they go to see these plays. They're very, very popular. Each one is always sold out. They do 7 performances plus a free preview performance at the library a week before the show begins. And the wonderful thing about it is that it's kind of a whole family investment and commitment, because they rely on the parents to volunteer. So all of this props and costumes and all of the marketing is all done by parents of the people in the play. And so whenever Olivia is involved in one of these plays, they put on 2 per year, and she's in 1 per year. Plus they do summer camps as well that our kids are involved in. But we usually just do 1 of the big productions per year, because it is quite a big commitment of time. It's at least 4 hours a week for all of us. And plus then as the play gets closer and closer, it becomes, close to 8 hours a week for Olivia, preparing and then doing the shows 2 full weekends. So there we go. My long title is complete, and I'm really pleased with it. And now I'm thinking, how am I going to embellish this. And with these busy background papers and all of this text, I have to be very careful here that my embellishments, I'm trying to be very intentional with my use of embellishments. So I'm not embellishing just for the sake of embellishing, and I'm trying to use great restraint and use fair-sized embellishments. So I don't want to use a whole bunch of little tiny ones because they will get lost in all of those intricate patterns that are on those three panels that are on the back. I'm putting a little bit of those gold cut apart. They're like gold embossed embellishments that you cut apart. And this sticker was kind of left over from another project, and I had punched some stars out of it. So there's a negative, like a negative imprint of like cut out stars. And I really actually like how that looks on the corner of that. There, on the corner of the circle, I almost said. Of course, circles don't have corners, but on one of the edges of the circle. So I'm just cutting apart some of these gold embossed embellishments, putting one in each of the little clusters of embellishments, and I'm trying to add a sticker, a brad, and a gold embellishment to each of the, at first it was going to be 3, but then I decided to make it be 4 clusters of embellishments. And I want them to be really big and easy to see, and yeah, so I'm picking stickers that are fairly large. I'm using lots of circle emblems, and I consider the flowers to have like a circular kind of feel to them, even though they're not exact circles. I decided to move the smaller flower to the top because I prefer my larger elements to be lower on my pages and my smaller elements to be higher on my pages. Sorry that you can't see that top cluster at this point. I think I'm either going to zoom out or do something about that at some point. And so I thought about putting another circle up here. So I grabbed myself a circle punch, and I thought I'd put that brad on that little circle piece of paper, but it seemed too busy. So I just decided to put the brad in the center of the flower instead. Again, less is more with this kind of a page. Really the most of the impact comes from those 3 panels in the back, and then the letters that make up the phrases. And so before I take this apart so that I can attach the orange piece in the photo and then the embellishments, I'm just going to snap a shot of it with my phone so that I don't forget where everything is, because I really like it the way it is right now. And I'm going to start by putting down the orange piece. And then I'm going to layer the photo, and I've decided to pop up the photo, and just so that I don't have to use 10,000 of those Stampin' Up! Dimensional adhesive pieces, I just used some Scotch foam tape, which I don't have much of, so I used it all on this. And I'm just using my Stampin' Up! Paper piercer and a little piece of foam that I keep on my desk, and I'm poking some holes for the brads. And just adding some more dimensional adhesive there just to hold that piece up off the page so that it's even with the photo. And I'm going to mess with this a little bit. It feels like it's not quite right. I need to leave enough space there for the word bloody, we're bloody Buccaneers, but I want it to also, you know, look nice. So I'm going to mess around with it a little bit, and I like it like that. And just putting everything back so that I can space it all out and decide where everything is going to go. There we go. And now, because the bottom is really the most straightforward, oops, I decided to put a little leaf here because each of the embellishment clusters had something kind of organic. So I wanted to put a leaf there. And there's nothing organic in this little cluster, but I'm sort of thinking of this one as a secondary cluster, but I actually am going to add something organic. And what I mean by organic is something living, like a flower or a leaf or something. And so I'm thinking that there's sort of 3 main clusters, which is the one in the bottom left-hand corner of the photo, the one in the top right-hand corner of the layout, and the one in the bottom right-hand corner of the layout. And so that other one with the large kind of medallion embellishment is sort of like a secondary one. It kind of falls in the same line. If you were to draw a line between the bottom left-hand embellishment cluster and the top right-hand embellishment cluster, that line would cross right through that secondary cluster. So I've decided to put the letters down for this last phrase because it doesn't have any embellishments around it, sort of, although the terrible kind of goes close to the bottom part of that flower. But basically, I'm going to adhere the letter stickers so that I'm leaving room for these embellishments. And so in this case, I'm placing the embellishment first so that I know that I have room for it. Because you can always scooch around the letters because they're more flexible, right? Especially where I'm kind of placing them in a casual, haphazard-y kind of way. But the stickers are stickers and they're full-sized, and so there's only so many places that they will fit. So I'm putting those down first and then working my letters around them. So there's my yo-ho, yo-ho. And then I'm also starting with the longest phrases because they need to fit a certain way, whereas the smaller phrases, I can be more flexible with them because they'll definitely fit in the space. So Captain Hook, for example, is going to just barely fit on this line. So I have to make sure that I'm specific in how I'm placing it so that it will fit. So I didn't show all of that because it was, you know, just kind of very, very repetitive, but that's basically how I did it. Is I placed the embellishments first and then placed my letters around it, focusing on my longer phrases first and then my smaller phrases, fitting them in around. So now I'm just, adhering the rest of those embellishments, adding the brads. And I thought about adding flowers, but flowers aren't there's some flowers on there already, and I didn't want it to be too floral because they're about tough pirates, not flowery, delicate things. So I decided no more flowers. There were enough. And it happened off camera, but I did use that Stampin' Up! Glue pen to glue down the dots of the eyes for the pink letters because, as I mentioned, they weren't sticking. And so now you'll get to see this up close, but it's not quite done yet, but I thought it was done, so I'm showing it to you. It looks like it says tear iffy there, but yeah, it says terrify. It's just the way that it's spaced. It looks a little weird. Yeah, so this is looking really good, but as I mentioned, that embellishment cluster that's kind of in the center of the page, up in the top right-hand corner of the photo, oh, look at those stars there. Don't they look kind of cute? It's just an extra little detail. But that embellishment cluster in the center of the page there doesn't have an organic item on it. And the brad in the center of that sun-like looking thing in the middle of the medallion, that's like a layered brad that came on the package of brads. It's kind of tiny, and I felt like it needed a more substantial brad, and so I'm going to add one of the brads from the kit, from the brad set, and this will do two things. It will add something organic to this cluster, but also this cluster has noticeably less white on it. So because it doesn't have one of those outlined stickers, or on the leaf stickers just has a lot of white on it, it's not balanced with the other ones because it doesn't have as much white. And so this brad introduces a flower on a white background or cream colored background. So that does those two things for me. It adds some white and also, or just, something noticeably lighter, and also introduces a floral or leaf type of motif. So there we go. I think I'm going to show it. Did I show it already? I showed it already. I wasn't paying attention. I was talking. So here are the photos of this one. I hope that you had a fun time watching this one come together. I certainly had a lot of fun making this one in particular. It's kind of nice to have a sketch and just follow the sketch like a recipe. It makes you better able to focus on some of the other details of storytelling. So I really like that. Thanks so much for watching. And if you're participating in our International Scrapbooking Day challenges, head on over over to the Facebook and make sure that you post your entry for the challenge number 5, which is to use an older collection, and post it on our group, and you will be eligible to win the prize for this challenge. So take care and have a really great scrappy week.